The human ship Horizon drifted through silent space, its engines humming softly as the crew scanned the lifeless system. They had been traveling for weeks with nothing but stars and empty rocks around them. It was supposed to be a simple survey mission. No one expected anything unusual here, no signals, no colonies, nothing alive. But then the ship scanners caught something strange, a faint pulse, so weak it almost vanished in the static. At first, the crew thought it was interference, maybe radiation from the dead star nearby, but the pulse came again, repeating at steady intervals like a heartbeat calling for help. The captain ordered the ship to change course. The signal grew stronger as they approached the outer rim of the system. Tension filled the bridge as the crew leaned closer to their screens. Slowly, through the darkness, a small object appeared on the edge of their vision. It was not a ship, not a satellite, but a tiny escape pod drifting without power. Its surface was scarred as if it had survived fire and battle. There were strange markings carved into its metal skin, symbols that none of the crew could understand. The pod was old, yet something inside was alive, something faint but real. The crew moved quickly. The pod was pulled into the docking bay and sealed. Engineers cut open the hatch, and a thin mist spilled out. Inside, curled up and barely breathing, was a child. But the moment the crew laid eyes on it, they froze. This was no human child. Its skin was pale silver, almost glowing under the lights. Its eyes, though closed, flickered with a strange light beneath the lids. The shape of its body was familiar, with arms, legs, and a face, but its features were sharper, more delicate, almost fragile, as if made by hands that were not of this world. The child stirred weakly, whispering sounds that made no sense at first. The crew carried it to the medbay, placing it gently on the bed. Machines scanned its small body, confirming it was alive though weak. The crew gathered around in silence, unsure of what to do. Then, with trembling lips, the child opened its eyes. They were bright, too bright, filled with colors no human eye had seen before. And in a broken, fragile voice, it spoke words that made everyone's breath stop. It said, "Are you my family?" No one moved. The question hung in the air like a ghost. The captain, a man who had faced pirates and storms among the stars, suddenly felt his heart tighten. The crew exchanged uncertain looks, some filled with fear, others with pity. None of them knew how the child could speak their language, even in broken form. None of them knew what it meant. But the way it asked, with eyes wide and voice trembling, it was not a trick or a trap. It was a plea, soft and desperate, the kind only a lost child could make. The crew wanted answers. They examined the pod again, searching its walls. Strange symbols were burned into the metal inside, dark and sharp like warnings left behind. The ship's AI tried to translate, piecing together fragments of meaning. The words were chilling. Exile. Dangerous. Must not return. The crew stared at the message, their unease growing heavier. What kind of child would be locked in a pod, cast into the cold void, with such warnings carved into its prison? The child watched them, its eyes filled with something between fear and hope. It reached out a trembling hand, small and fragile, toward the captain, as if begging for comfort. But the captain hesitated. To accept it would mean inviting something unknown onto his ship. To reject it would mean letting an innocent die. The crew argued in hushed voices. Some said it was dangerous, that no alien was ever left adrift by accident. Others said it was just a child, and no child should be abandoned. The voices clashed, but the child's voice cut through them all, soft but clear. Family. Are you my family? The sound of it silenced the room again. The captain looked into the glowing eyes and saw not an enemy, not a weapon, not a danger, but a child lost in the dark. Against all reason, he felt a strange pull in his heart, as if destiny itself had placed this fragile being in their path. He gave the order to keep the child alive, to watch over it until they understood more. Still, the weight of the message carved into the pod lingered in every mind. Exile. Dangerous. Must not return. The words echoed like shadows as the ship drifted forward into the unknown. None of them realized yet that by answering the call of a lost child, they had already stepped into a storm far greater than they imagined. The horizon remained quiet as the alien child rested in the medbay. Machines kept watch over its weak body, showing strange readings that no one fully understood. The crew stood uneasy outside the glass wall, whispering to each other. Some looked at the child with worry, others with pity. No one could forget the words burned into the escape pod: exile, dangerous, must not return. Those words were not random. Someone had left that child drifting for a reason, and the reason was frightening. The captain stayed in the room longer than the rest. He watched the child breathe, slow and shallow, with its glowing eyes opening every few moments. Each time it woke, it asked the same question in broken English. Are you my family? The way it spoke those words was not a trick. There was no hatred in its voice, no hidden threat. It was only longing, the kind of longing that made even hardened soldiers shift uncomfortably. But still, fear lingered. The crew had survived battles before, and they all knew one rule of space: nothing unknown is ever harmless. Hours passed, and the child grew a little stronger. It sat up on the bed, looking around the medbay with wide, curious eyes. Its hands trembled as it touched the sheets, the machines, the lights above. Everything seemed strange and new to it, like it had never seen such things before. One of the younger engineers stepped closer, holding a small container of water. The child tilted its head, watching carefully, then reached out slowly. It drank, its glowing eyes softening, and whispered thank you in a voice so faint the engineer almost missed it. That small moment broke some of the fear. For the first time, the crew saw not an alien, not a warning, but a child desperate for kindness. Yet the questions did not stop. Why was it abandoned? How did it learn to speak their words? And what danger did those warnings truly mean? The captain ordered the AI to keep translating the symbols on the pod. Slowly, more fragments appeared. One line said, "Vessel of great risk." Another said, "Cannot be allowed to awaken." Each phrase sent chills through the crew. Vessel of great risk. The words sounded less like exile and more like fear. Whoever sent this child away did not just want it gone. They were afraid of it. In the quiet of the night cycle, the child began to dream. It tossed and turned on the bed, its small body shaking. Strange sounds escaped its mouth, a language no one could recognize. Lights flickered in the medbay, machines beeped out of rhythm, and a low hum spread through the ship. The crew rushed in, but they stopped at the door, frozen by what they saw. The child was glowing, brighter than before, its skin shimmering like liquid silver. Around its head, faint shapes appeared in the air, like symbols of fire written in light. The captain shouted for calm, but fear gripped the crew. Was this power the reason the child had been cast away? Was this why the warning said it must not return? Then, as quickly as it began, the glow faded. The child gasped awake, its eyes wide with terror. It looked at the crew and whispered, "I am sorry. I did not want this. Please, do not leave me." The words struck every heart in the room. The power they had seen was real, but the fear in the child's voice was even more real. It was not proud of its gift. It was afraid of it. The crew argued once more. Some said the child was too dangerous to keep. If it could affect the ship without control, it might destroy them all. Others said abandoning it would be murder, and no human should commit such a crime against the helpless. The debate grew heated, but again the child's voice silenced them. "Are you my family?" Just 5 words, spoken with tears in its strange glowing eyes. No weapon could have cut so deep. But before the crew could settle the matter, the sensors detected something. A ship had entered the system. It was large, far larger than the horizon, and it was not answering hails. It only drifted silently at a distance, watching. The crew felt a heavy weight in their chests. They knew this was no accident. The child's pod had been found by humans, but now someone else had come looking. Someone who did not want the child alive. The captain gave the order to stay quiet and watch. The strange ship did not approach, but its presence filled every corridor with unease. The alien child pressed its hands to the medbay glass, staring at the shadow on the screen. Its lips trembled as it whispered words the translator could barely catch. "Hunters. They have come." The shadow of the strange ship lingered in the distance, its massive form half hidden against the glow of the dead star. The Horizon's crew kept their eyes fixed on the scanners, every small movement on edge. The enemy ship did not send a message, did not fire, did not even move closer. It simply waited, silent and patient, like a predator circling its prey. The crew knew that kind of patience meant only one thing. Whoever was inside was waiting for the right moment to strike. Inside the medbay, the alien child sat quietly, but its glowing eyes were fixed on the image of the ship on the screen. It said only one word again. Hunters. The way it spoke the word sent a chill through the room. It was not just fear in its voice. It was recognition. The child knew exactly who was watching them, and it was afraid. The captain demanded answers. He sat down across from the child and spoke firmly but not harshly. Who are they? Why are they here? Why were you drifting alone in that pod? For a long moment the child stayed silent, eyes lowered, hands gripping the sheets tightly. Then, in a voice that trembled, it whispered, "They are my people. They want me gone. They say I should not exist." The crew fell silent, the weight of those words pressing down on them. A child hunted by its own kind. The thought was almost too heavy to believe. The crew began to notice strange changes on the ship. Lights flickered in the corridors even though the power systems showed no faults. The air felt heavier, as if an invisible weight pressed against the walls. Some of the crew reported whispers in the night cycle, soft voices speaking in a language they could not understand, voices that always seemed to come from nowhere and fade into silence. The captain kept strict order, but unease grew stronger each passing hour. Everyone knew the alien ship outside was waiting, but now it felt like something was already inside with them. One night, the child cried out in its sleep again. The crew rushed to the medbay, and what they saw froze them in place. The air around the child shimmered like heat waves, and the bed beneath it rattled as if shaken by unseen hands. Its small body glowed brightly, and shapes of light swirled around it, symbols that matched the strange markings from the pod. The machines beeped wildly, unable to measure the energy spilling into the room. The captain shouted for calm, but fear spread fast. Was the child losing control? Was this the danger the warnings had spoken about? The child woke with tears running down its glowing cheeks. "I cannot stop it," it whispered. "I do not want this. Please, do not let them take me." Its voice was not just frightened, it was desperate, like a soul begging for protection it had never known before. The crew stood torn. Some wanted to restrain the child, fearing its power would destroy the ship. Others wanted to comfort it, to show it the kindness it had never received. The argument boiled again, and again the captain had to choose between fear and compassion. Meanwhile, the enemy ship made its first move. Without warning, it powered its engines and began to close the distance. Alarms rang across the horizon as the scanners lit up with energy readings. The alien ship was arming weapons, but still, it did not send a single word. No demands, no warnings, only silence and deadly intent. The crew scrambled to battle stations, hands shaking as they prepared for a fight they knew they could not win. The horizon was small, built for exploration, not war. Against a hunter vessel, their chances were almost none. The child stood at the medbay window, staring at the hunters drawing closer. Its voice broke as it whispered, "They will kill you all to reach me. They fear me. They always feared me. That is why they threw me away." The captain stepped closer, his voice steady though his heart was heavy. "Then tell us, child. Why do they fear you? What are you?" For the first time, the child looked him in the eyes with honesty. "I do not know. I only know I was born different. My people saw me as danger. But I only want family. I only want to belong." Before the captain could respond, the ship shook violently. A warning shot had struck near their hull, a clear signal from the hunters. The crew braced for impact, fear rushing through every heart. But at that moment, something strange happened. The child's body glowed again, but this time it was not violent or uncontrolled. A calm light spread across the medbay, warm and protective. The ship systems, which had been failing, suddenly stabilized. Lights steadied, engines hummed stronger, and the shields, though weak before, flared brighter than their design should allow. The child had done something, though it did not understand how. It looked at the captain with wide eyes and whispered, "I want to help." Outside, the hunter ship slowed, as if sensing the change. For the first time, a message came through the comms. A cold, sharp voice filled the bridge. "Surrender the exile, or die with it." The crew stood frozen. The truth was out. The child was the exile, the one they feared. The hunters had finally spoken, and their demand was clear. The captain stared at the glowing child, then at the deadly shadow outside. He knew his choice would decide not only their fate but the fate of something far greater. The bridge of the horizon was heavy with silence after the hunter's message. Their demand was simple and cruel. Surrender the exile or die with it. The crew stared at the captain, waiting for his answer, but none came. His eyes were fixed on the screen, where the massive alien vessel waited with weapons charged. Every second felt like a hammer striking the air, each breath harder than the last. For the first time, the crew understood the full danger of the child they had taken in. This was not an accident. This was a battle waiting to happen. In the medbay, the child sat quietly, but it knew what was happening. It pressed its small hand against the glass, its glowing eyes filled with fear. It whispered, "They will not stop. They want me gone. They think I am a curse." The captain entered the room, his boots echoing softly against the floor. He stood before the child, his face hard but his voice steady. "Tell me everything. Why do they fear you? Why would your own people cast you into the dark?" The child trembled, its voice breaking as it spoke. "I was born different. My people saw it the moment I opened my eyes. I could touch things without touching them. I could feel thoughts that were not mine. I did not mean harm, but they said I was dangerous. They said I would bring ruin. So they called me exile. They sent me away." The child looked down, tears glowing as they slid down its silver skin. "I do not want power. I only want to belong. Are you my family?" The words struck the captain deep. He remembered the warnings carved into the pod. Vessel of great risk. Must not return. Now the meaning was clear. The child carried power it did not understand, and its people feared that power enough to try and erase it. But to the captain, it was still a child, lost and unwanted. He turned back to the bridge with heavy steps, his mind torn between duty and compassion. On the bridge, arguments exploded. Some crew shouted that they had to give the child up. They said the hunters would kill them all if they refused. Others argued that surrendering the child would mean betraying everything humans stood for. How could they hand over a child, no matter its origin, to people who only wanted to destroy it? The voices clashed louder and louder until the captain raised his hand. "Quiet." His voice carried the weight of command. "We will not surrender an innocent. Not to anyone." The crew fell silent, their fear mixing with respect. Some still doubted, but no one dared speak against the captain again. The child, listening through the comms, felt tears rise once more. For the first time, someone had chosen to stand for it. That single choice meant more than any power it carried. But the hunters did not wait. Their ship fired again, this time a direct strike. The horizon shook violently, alarms screaming across the bridge. Sparks flew from the panels, smoke filled the air, and crew members stumbled as the floor trembled beneath them. Shields held, but barely. Another hit like that and they would collapse. The hunter's voice echoed once more, colder than before. "Surrender the exile, or be destroyed. This is your final chance." The crew braced for impact, fear tightening every face. But then something happened again. The child closed its eyes in the medbay, its small body glowing brighter than ever before. The lights across the ship surged, and the failing shields suddenly flared stronger. The damage stopped spreading. Systems came back to life. The horizon was being protected by something no engineer could explain. The child whispered through the comms, "I do not want them to hurt you. Let me help." The hunters noticed. Their scanners read the sudden change, and fear spread through their ranks. They had always believed the exile would destroy everything it touched, but now they saw it shielding humans, protecting them with power stronger than their weapons. Panic crept into their voices as they sent another message, desperate now. "Do not trust it. It is poison. It will consume you. Give it to us before it is too late." But the crew, though afraid, saw the truth with their own eyes. The child was not poison. It was saving them. The captain stood tall on the bridge. He opened the channel and spoke clearly. "This child asked us one question. Are you my family? And we will answer, yes. If it seeks family, then it will find one here, with us." The crew's eyes widened. Some felt fear, some felt pride, but the decision was final. The horizon had claimed the exile as its own. The hunters reacted with fury. Their ship-powered weapons for a full strike, intent on destroying the horizon no matter the cost. Red lights flashed across the human ship as they prepared for the worst. But the child stepped forward, its body glowing like a star. It pressed both hands against the glass of the medbay, and a wave of energy burst outward. It flowed through the horizon, stronger than any shield, brighter than any weapon. The hunters' strike was blocked, their beams swallowed in light. Their mighty ship trembled under the force, and for the first time, they felt fear. The captain watched in awe, his heart pounding. The exile was not a curse. It was hope. But hope always came with a price. And as the hunters reeled in terror, the crew knew the battle was far from over. The real war was only beginning. The horizon shook as the alien hunters launched another wave of attacks. Blinding beams cut through the void, each strike powerful enough to rip an exploration ship apart. But the horizon did not fall. A strange light wrapped around it like a shield, bending the deadly fire away. The crew stared at their screens in disbelief. The child in the medbay stood glowing brighter than ever, its hands pressed to the glass, its voice soft but filled with resolve. "I will not let them hurt you." The hunters' voices filled the comms again, louder and angrier. "You do not understand. That creature is not a child. It is a weapon. It will consume you, it will destroy you, as it was destined to do. Hand it over before it is too late." Their words were heavy with fear, but behind that fear was something else, desperation. They were not just enemies, they were terrified of what the child could become. On the bridge, the crew trembled under the sound of the hunters' threats. Some whispered that maybe the aliens were right, that maybe keeping the child was a mistake. But others shook their heads, remembering how it had saved them twice already. They had seen its tears, heard its soft plea for family, felt the warmth of its light when all else failed. The captain stood firm, his voice cutting through the fear. "No child asks to be thrown into the dark. No child asks to be hunted. If it is power you fear, then perhaps it is not the child that is dangerous. Perhaps it is you." The hunters answered with rage. Their ship powered up for a final strike, stronger than any before. Warning alarms screamed through the horizon. The shields would not last long, not even with the child's protection. The crew gripped their stations, ready for the end. But then something unexpected happened. The child cried out, its voice echoing across the ship, not in words, but in raw emotion, fear, sorrow, and hope all at once. The walls shook, the air pulsed, and every person felt it in their hearts. The glow around the child flared, and suddenly the horizon's weapons, weak, barely functional explorers' guns, lit up with power never built into them. The gunners stared in shock as energy flowed through the ship, channeling into the cannons. They fired, and for the first time, their shots struck with the strength of a warship. Bolts of light smashed against the hunters' shields, forcing them to stagger back. The predator was now the prey. The child looked at the captain through the comms, its voice trembling. "I am not poison. I am not a monster. I want to protect. Will you let me?" The captain's reply was steady and firm. "Yes, child. Protect your family." The hunters panicked. Their voices cracked with fear. "Do not let it awaken. Do not let it rise. Destroy it before it is too late." But their fear only revealed the truth. For all their power, for all their weapons, they were terrified of what the child might become. Not because it was evil, but because it was something they could not control. The battle raged on. Blasts of light tore across the void, the horizon weaving desperately through the storm. The child's energy shield flickered with each strike, glowing weaker, but its determination never wavered. Its eyes shone with tears as it whispered again and again, "Family. I will not lose you." The crew, once filled with fear, now fought with new strength. Their small ship, once fragile, stood tall against a hunter vessel that had crushed countless foes before. Then came the turning point. The hunters prepared their main cannon, a weapon strong enough to burn a planet's surface. The charge built up, bright and deadly, ready to erase the horizon in one strike. The crew froze, knowing this would be the end. But the child stepped forward, its glow reaching beyond the medbay, flooding the entire ship with light. The horizon's engines roared, its cannons blazed, and the shields turned into a shining sphere of energy. The hunters fired, and the void lit up in blinding brilliance. For a moment, silence fell. When the light faded, the horizon was still there, standing strong. The hunters' cannon had failed. Their mighty weapon had been swallowed by the child's power. Cracks spread across their ship's hull as alarms echoed in their channels. Fear filled their voices as they cried, "It has chosen them. It has chosen humans. Run, before it is too late." And then, something no one expected happened. The hunters turned and fled. Their massive vessel, once a symbol of terror, retreated into the dark, leaving only silence in its wake. The crew of the Horizon stood stunned, hardly believing what they had just witnessed. The child collapsed in the medbay, exhausted but smiling faintly. Its small voice whispered, "Family, safe." The crew rushed to its side, fear replaced by awe. They had not just survived. They had won, because a child that was meant to be feared had chosen them instead. The captain placed a hand on the glass, his voice soft but firm. "You are not exile. You are not curse. You are ours now." The crew knew the danger was not gone. The hunters had fled, but they would return. And when they did, they would bring more ships, more fear, more determination to erase the exile. But for now, the horizon was safe. For now, the child had found what it had been searching for. For now, it had a family. The horizon drifted in silence after the hunters fled. The battlefield was empty now, but the scars of the fight remained. Hull plates were scorched, systems were strained, and the crew was exhausted. Yet no one spoke of fear anymore. They looked at each other with a strange fire in their eyes. They had faced hunters and survived, not because of their ship, not because of their weapons, but because of the child who had asked them one simple question. "Are you my family?" In the medbay, the child lay weak and pale, its glow faint but still present. The crew gathered around, speaking softly, afraid to disturb it. The captain stood closest, watching the rise and fall of its small chest. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, in a voice meant only for the child, he whispered, "You are safe now. You are not alone. You are with us." The child stirred, its eyes opening slowly, and a faint smile crossed its face. "Family," it whispered, as if tasting the word with hope and relief. Days passed as the crew repaired the horizon. The child recovered slowly, gaining strength, but its power no longer erupted uncontrollably. It seemed calmer, more stable, as if the fear inside it had finally lessened. The crew began to treat it not as a threat, but as one of their own. Engineers brought it food, doctors checked its health, and even the toughest soldiers softened when it asked questions in its gentle, broken English. Every time it said thank you, a warmth filled the room. But peace never lasted long in space. The hunters had retreated, yes, but their message lingered. They had called the child exile, weapon, curse. They had promised to return. The crew knew their fight was not finished. Still, something had changed. The child had shown them strength greater than anything they had seen before, a strength not born from anger or destruction, but from the desire to protect. And that strength had given the humans something new, courage. One evening, as the horizon floated near the edge of the system, the child sat quietly on the bridge, wrapped in a blanket far too big for its small frame. It stared at the stars through the wide glass view, eyes glowing faintly. The captain sat beside it, silent at first. Then he asked, "Do you miss them, your people?" The child's voice was soft. "I miss the idea of them. I wanted to belong. But they never let me. They only feared me. I do not want to go back." The captain nodded slowly. "You don't have to. Not anymore. You belong here now." The child turned, tears shimmering in its strange eyes. "Truly. Even though I am not like you." The captain placed a hand on its shoulder. "Family is not about being the same. It is about choosing to stand together. And we have chosen you." The words sank deep into the child's heart. For the first time in its short life, it felt accepted. No whispers of curse, no warnings of exile, only warmth and belonging. It closed its eyes and whispered, "Then I am not exile. I am family." But peace was never simple. Before the words could settle, alarms rang across the bridge. Long-range sensors picked up multiple signals. Ships. Not one, not two, but a fleet. The hunters had returned, larger and stronger. The crew's hope wavered, fear creeping back into their eyes. The child looked out at the blinking signals on the screen, and its voice shook. They are coming. They will not stop. The captain stood tall, his voice steady. Then we will not stop either. You are one of us now. And humanity does not run. The crew echoed his resolve, their fear replaced by defiance. For the first time, they were not standing against the dark alone. They had something the hunters could never understand. They had a child who had been cast out, who carried power beyond imagination, and who now called them family. The child rose to its feet, its glow returning stronger, steadier. It looked at the captain, at the crew, and spoke in clear, determined words. Then let us fight. Together. The horizon prepared for battle once more, but this time, the crew did not feel helpless. This time, they had hope. The hunters might return with fleets, with fire, with fear. But humanity had answered the question of the exile. And the answer had changed everything. In the endless dark of space, where fear had ruled for so long, something new was born that day. Not exile, not weapon, not curse. A family. A bond between human and alien child, strong enough to make even the hunters tremble. And as the horizon turned to face the coming storm, the child whispered the words that had once been a question, but were now a truth. I have a family.